This is brought to you by Cricket 8. They are a new player in the game trying to educate fans on what is really happening in cricket. We have a partnership with them where we host live watch-alongs, do podcasts, and write articles. If you want to know what is really happening with our game, visit cricket8.com. If you make any content, Minvo Pro is the tool for you. Take your long format content and cut it and slice it for social media. This AI-inspired weapon will turn your one piece of work into so many clips. Try Minvo.pro now. Morning everyone and welcome to the scoreboard. Well, Chennai still looked like a team batting before 2024 started, but they got enough runs, and despite the win predictors and everyone else saying they had no chance, it looked like they were in a pretty good position to win that game early on. And if you think about the fact they probably didn't even get the most out of their bowling, they could have bowled Moeen Ali. Could have won that one quite easily. Rahul Chahar and Harshal Patel did quite well. Punjab's batting, it's a ride, isn't it? I think at this stage. Worth a shout out for Tushar Deshpande, who continues by far and away his best season. All the faith that Chennai put in him. Bowlers like him usually disappear by this stage, and he's getting better and better. And Santner coming in was absolutely fantastic, which is part of the reason they didn't have to bowl Moeen Ali. Punjab's season is pretty much over now, and Chennai still have a bit of a rough road left for the the next part of it. But at least they beat Punjab, and they almost never do, right? And what about Kolkata? It's time to ask the question that everyone is thinking: is Sunil Narine the greatest batter of all time? It's kind of ridiculous what he keeps doing. Ravi Bashnoi. It wasn't Ravi Bashnoi today. It was very Ravi Bishnoi today. No one really got him. I thought the batting order was a little bit weird from Kolkata. If you've got Ramandeep, just throw Ramandeep in. And I thought the ball went a little bit flat, but they still got a really good amount of runs. And then Lucknow went for it, right? They went for it in the power play. And, did they have three guys who had scored 6 off one ball? That is not a Lucknow innings at all. And in the end, it was like, are they going for the net run rate? Are they not going for the net run rate? In the end, they weren't close enough to play either of those things. Their net run rate is now horrendous. So they're going to need an extra win. And on KKR, it's really interesting that, again, we look at them and we say that they did a lot wrong at times. There's still the Stark thing, the batting order. Who knows what's going on with Sunil Narine? But they keep winning. But the whole core of Kolkata's wins at the moment is Narine and Salt opening their batting together. And who knows what Narine we're going to get by the pointy end of the season. If it's this one, they've got a huge chance. If it's without Salt and without him, then they're not. It's the opposite of a big chance. It's a small chance. It's less than a chance. It's chanceless. I'm not sure. I didn't really think that through. Let's go to the scoreboard part of the show. If you want to ask questions, please do. But we've got plenty of stuff to get through on the show. But if you want to ask a question, Super Chat's the best way to go. But any comments, if I can see them, I will try and get through. Lucknow today, I told you they went hard. 9 runs and over in the first 6. It was their highest scoring power play of the season. And they really kept pushing as hard as possible, but eventually that just meant that they fell apart. They're not really a team set up to do that, although with Ashton Turner, I thought that gave them a little bit more flexibility when it came to the hitting, but still didn't matter. This is their true values by phase this season. You can see very, very struggling to get going at the top. That's, what are they, about half a run and over worse than what we would hope for. You've got them at the death is really bad. They make up for it in the middle, but it just, if you're starting games bad or starting innings bad and ending innings bad, Turner looked good for them today, which is something that is, interesting. I thought Huda looked good at times, Stoinis looked good at times, and I thought Kalkani looked really good. Didn't have the great strike rate, but there were some good signs from them. But a lot has to go right in their batting order from here to the end of the season in order for them to be a final, to get in the finals, let alone to be a contender. KKR's bowls, again, it's the same thing over and over again with Sunil Narine. He's bowling fantastic. I thought Harshit bowled sneaky good. I loved his over in the power play. Did he go for a 6 or 2 sixes? I'm trying to think of how many runs he actually went for in that power play. But I love the way he bowled in the power play, and I thought he bowled really well later on when he came back and ended up cleaning up the tail. Still an issue with Chakravarti and Stark, right? But Andre Russell also bowled well today. His kind of game, though, Andre Russell, for being fair. Yeah, Andre Russell bowls at his absolute best when teams have to attack him. Narayan's true values by season. This is before today. And you can see, again, just how ridiculous he has been as a player. Mostly a defensive player. This grouping down here is absolutely remarkable. And he's taking wickets again. As what usually happens with Sunil Narayan, once he starts taking wickets and bowling really well, people question his action. I think there's a comment about it as well. I'm going to say the same thing I always say. If cricket wants to fix this problem, they should be learning how to test actions in the game. If they don't, we're just going to keep getting conversations like this going over and over again. But certainly he's been bowling fantastically so far this year. This is KKR. These two sections pretty much won them that game. There was a bit of a slowdown here, and they managed to pull it back a little bit, but probably not as much as they would want. Again, if Ramandeep had come in earlier, perhaps things would have been different. This is their RPO in power plays this year. So started off with 7 runs and over, and we've got a bunch of 9s in here, and everything else is above. Those are above 14. Those are above 2 runs a ball. All those. That one's basically 2 runs a ball. The issue, as I said in the intro, is if Salt goes home and Narayan loses, even goes back to good Narayan form, what happens? Because everything is going to change for them at the end of the year, sadly. And this is what I was talking about with the batting, with Ramandeep coming in further down. He looks ridiculous because he only faced a few balls here. He has to be coming in ahead of Shreyas Iyer in this position. It's made for Ramandeep. You're just not maximising your batting order if you do it that way. This is a perfect game where I almost would have said to Shreyas, Venki can come in before you as well. True strike rate after 5 balls this season, excluding today, Ramandeep Singh is a run more than expected per ball after 5 balls. Ravi Ganshi's quite up there as well. I mean, these guys are ahead of Fraser McGurk, Travis Head, and Abhishek Sharma, which gives you some idea of the way they have been batting. And this is Sunil Narayan. We can see just how many 6s he's been hitting this year. So 38% more 6s than we would expect from the balls that he has faced. 14% more boundaries. Doesn't care about dot balls. Doesn't score singles. And 2s are for chumps. And Bishnoi. I thought he bowled really, really well today. The way he's been used this season. This season, I think more than most, teams have been upset by the madness of some of the cricket. And it means that in certain situations, we've seen bowlers not bowl when they absolutely, positively have to bowl. And so I think we've seen again and again teams just making mistakes. Bishnoi is always going to be a plus bowler over the full course of a season. You have to get him into the bowling attack before the 16th over. And we'll go on to see the other game. CSK started pretty quick for them and then really got stuck in the middle. Obviously, they lost some wickets and everything else. Managed to score quite well at the end without an MS Dhoni style thing. And this is probably where they won this game. It didn't necessarily look like that at the time, but certainly how it felt to myself and Rob Barron and Dan Norcross on the commentary. We thought Chennai were a huge chance of winning at the halfway point. Jadeja, I thought this was a good innings. He probably didn't go ballistic in a way that Indian fans want him to go, that big hitting at the end. But he played the anchor role. He was quite smart. He showed some intent. At one stage, he charged down the wicket really early on and got them up to a pretty good score. And he scored it over 2 runs a ball. If this is the Jadeja that India get, they are a much better team in this next World Cup. And we could see so far in this season, it's not been the rate we've been looking at from him. He's been averaging, a huge amount, 32 runs ahead of what you would expect from the balls he's faced, but his true strike rate is negative 13. Compare that to him in the early part of the game, you see a big difference here. He has to be over here for Chennai and for India. And we can see just how much he relies on, he gets 30% less dot balls than everyone else. but it's all about the singles, the twos, and the threes. And he can hit boundaries and absolutely no sixes. It's got to hit sixes. And this is Chahal's bowling today. I thought he was great. Harshal went very well. Harpreet got met. I think he just bowled the one over in the end. That was probably a mistake looking at this game. And I definitely would have brought him back on. But they don't want to bowl him to left-handers. You know, we've had these conversations a million times. This is a pretty good bowling card, all things considered. It's just the fact that the opposition were bowling against worse batters, if we're being honest. And this is Bra this season. Is where are we? He's true economy. So he's about 1 run and over worse against left-handers than you would expect. And he's not getting wickets. This is absolutely fine for a left-arm finger spinner up against left-handers. There's nothing wrong with this. These are good numbers. I would bowl him more, certainly to left-handers. Chahar's true values by batting type. So we could see here that Chahar has done very, very well. He's probably more of a wicket-taking threat against left-handers, which is quite interesting as a leg spinner. And you can see here that against the right-handers, he's a little bit more defensive, I suppose, but still gets wickets at a decent rate. When he's on form, he's a really good bowler, you know, and he is someone who does fluctuate quite a lot. He's probably, for someone who's quite a defensive leg spinner, he's probably a very good, he's like a high ceiling, low floor bowler, which doesn't make sense for his kind of bowler. It's what you would expect of someone like Chahal, but somehow Chahal sort of ends up there. We see Punjab today, really, you know, never got all that close to this chase. What are they best at? Probably attacking early on. They've been pretty good at the power play as well. You know, they're okay. And this is their batting today. Just everyone had a go. I mean, there's not much left to talk about their batting, really. And Santner, of course, absolutely fantastic in the overs that he bowled today. When he bowls on the right pitch, he's fantastic. He's probably at the wrong team just because it's hard for him to get a regular game. Had to bat as well today. Just is a really good backup player and his value there. This is Jadeja's true values by batting type this season. You can see here, he is not taking wickets against left-handers, but really good economy against them. And against right-handers, just under par with wickets, but 1.5 runs and over better than what we would expect, which is absolutely fantastic. And he's the points table after today. This is really interesting. KKR shouldn't be on top of this points table. That's not how that should work, but let's ignore that for a moment. I hate when they do this. It should be win percentage. They've played an extra game. It's so frustrating that we still do this at this point. But let's push that to a side for a moment. CSK at 6-5 and KKR at 8-3. KKR should be in a good position to guarantee themselves the double chance because they have pulled ahead of everyone else. The only thing that could have a problem with is that Sunrisers could go on a bit of a run at the end of the season. I think they've got one game against Lucknow that is almost a playoff spot. They're almost going 50-50 with Lucknow for that game. But the rest of the games are quite easy for Sunrisers. So they can get on a bit of a run if they want to. CSK, I think, has a slightly harder draw, if I remember correctly, although I'm trying to remember back to where they are. But Lucknow's in a really, really tricky position because of where they are. The other thing that could happen here is that KKR and Rajasthan could just keep winning. There is one game where they play each other, so that at least they're guaranteed one loss. If they just keep winning and don't lose any more games, it is possible for the fourth place team to only get in with 7 wins. And if that's going to be the case, you want to be a team with a good net run rate. The team to keep your eye on for that might be RCB. All right? But RCB Delhi, I still have a theoretical chance of getting through. In fact, Delhi could still win 3 more games, can't they? So they have a really good chance. And Lucknow, the win today, it's more about the net run rate loss that they've had. They've only got 3 more games to come. And that's it for the scoreboard part of the show. Remember, you can ask questions. We'll take a quick break here. and we will come back in a moment with more of the scoreboard and your questions here on the scoreboard with Jared Kimber. This is brought to you by Cricket 8. They are a new player in the game trying to educate fans on what is really happening in cricket. We have a partnership with them where we host live watch-alongs, do podcasts, and write articles. If you want to know what is really happening with our game, visit cricket8.com. If you make any content, Minvo Pro is the tool for you. Take your long format content and cut it and slice it for social media. This AI-inspired weapon will turn your one piece of work into so many clips. Try Minvo.pro now. Welcome back to Scoreboard. First question is from Vickers, who says, hopefully now Jared believes in KKR. I mean, not really. I feel like people are watching other things to me because Sunil Narayan's form probably shouldn't last, and Phil Salt's going to go. And I feel they've won a lot of games with those two at the top, being absolutely incredible. If that isn't the partnership, and if Sunil Narayan doesn't continue the way that he is, that changes their team quite a lot. I still don't trust Mitchell Starc, so I still don't really like their death bowling. Chakravarti, I'm feeling Chakravarti a little bit. I know he went for runs today, but I thought that was just they had to attack someone. I didn't have any issues with how he went today. So I think all things considered, I was not massively worried about, all things considered, I'm not won over by them. The thing that really wins me over from them, from a potential to win the championship, which is a very different from me feeling comfortable in their team, is that they are very likely now to get a double chance. And more importantly than that, even if the opening batting doesn't continue, the Chennai pitches that they might play on at the end of the season could help them as well. So I really like that, for them. I think that's a huge advantage for them. Subhana says, so KKR moving down to fourth in the next tier list, I assume. Where were they last time? Did I have them third or second? I can't remember. I think they were second, weren't they? So why would they go down to fourth? Didn't they win? I don't really understand that question at all. Rahul says, is Ramandeep the new Luke Ronchi? No, because Luke Ronchi was an opener and did his out of nerves, and Ramandeep is doing his out of, that's the role that he has. But if that's the role that he has, why did he not come in ahead of Shreyas Iyer? I think you've got to maximize your chances, and it's a few decisions like that. Sometimes we just still think, and they're not the only side that does it. We're getting to the point where a lot of the teams, are dropping off. And if you want to guarantee your second chance spot, which I think Kolkata have, but you also still have to win at least 2 games in the finals. Every decision that you make, you want to be it to be favourable from here. And I still think some of Shreyas Iyer's decisions are a little bit too variable for me. They don't follow as much as I would like them to follow. But I think Ramandeep's fantastic, and he still got the job done, right? Well, he got part of the job done, maybe is the best way of putting that one. Abdullah says, why has Mustafiz been so successful this season? Do you think the Fizz has his old mojo back? Love your unicorn video on him. Do you think his shoulder injury has subsided? I don't think he's back at his best, because I think at his best he's unplayable. I think what I talked about in that unicorn video is what I would say for Harshal Patel. It's what I would say for Mohit Sharma, which is, if you put masses of revolutions on the ball, you only need to be in a situation where you can't put that amount of revolution on the ball, and your slow ball goes from unplayable to playable, right? And if you have a playable slow ball, you can still be clever, and you can still occasionally outfox people. And Mustafiz still has great angles, and he has great variety in his slow balls, and all these sorts of things. But there's a difference between that level and whatever it was when he went at a run a ball on the death in that genius, year. He may never be that Mustafiz again. But he's wily now. He's older. And the other good thing for someone like him, and we saw this with Malinga. Malinga dropped, 10, 15 Ks. But Malinga was still in a position where, towards the end of his career, he had learned so much from bowling so many balls. And Dwayne Bravo is another really good example of this, where even when they couldn't do what they had to do, of just being too good naturally, they picked up all the other soft skills. And by that stage, you're in a really good position to be able to continue to bowl well. And I honestly think that is a huge thing for them. So no, I really do like the way he's bowled, but I'm not thinking to myself that he is a genuine. I'm not thinking to myself he's a genuine. He's not the Mustafizer. So I think things have changed a little bit there. There's not many questions today, so I can go through almost every one of them actually. Let's have a look. Joseph says, can any right arm off spinner other than Narayan have a career as a pure bowler in T20? Yes, but you would need probably a ball that goes the other way, which you might then argue is not a pure off spinner, or the knuckleball, which again you might argue. But no, I think you can. I mean, Ashwin's pretty much a pure off spinner, isn't he? I know he does have the Karen ball, but he doesn't bowl it all that much, and he's going okay. There aren't many left though, and I think it's a fair comment, Joseph. But I think if you were someone who was an unusually gifted off spinner against right-handers, and we've seen them in Test cricket before as well, I think you would have a chance. But they're becoming a dying breed. There aren't many genuine off spinners left who bowl a lot of overs. Sharon says, can CSK try Shardul Thakur as a pinch hitter opener? I don't think it suits the way they play. I think I talked about this a couple of years ago, Sharon. So I'm going to say yes, based on the fact that I've already thought about it once. I don't think it suits the way they play, but he's such a chaos batter. And how do you set a field to Shardul when he's hitting? So there's an element of that I like. I love that they promoted him today. I thought that was... did they promote him? God, I've forgotten. Yeah, they promoted him ahead of MS Dhoni. I thought that was a perfect time for him to come in and do exactly what he did. And I think sometimes they don't use his batting enough. You don't want him in a situation when you need to rely on him for runs. You do want to be in a situation where his chaos can add to the game. Matt says, who's the genius who made Narayan an opener? That was Aaron Finch. It was such a random set of events, but it was basically he had been working on himself as a hitter. And I think I'd covered a game in that series where it was in the Big Bash and he'd hit some sixes later on. And I might have even written a piece about how he turned himself into a consistent six hitter. And that's what he was working on. But that particular game, they knew Michael Beer was going to take the first over because Michael Beer almost always took the first over. And so Aaron Finch was like, well, that's a good matchup for you, Sano. Why don't you go out there and try and whack him so that he doesn't bowl his normal, none for 5, none for 6 overs that Michael Beer was so famous for. I don't even think, I can't remember if they used him for every single game. And then I think someone else used him up the order later on. Is it the PSL or Bangladesh Premier League? I think it might have been PSL. I can't remember anyway. And then, of course, KKR saw all this and they went all in on it, which was genius. What do you think KKR can do with Salt is unavailable? Yeah, it could be a season-defining loss just because he's been so good. So let's what do we got? KKR squad 2024. Raghavanshi, I suppose, is the most obvious person to go to the top of the order. Let's have a look at their batters. You probably don't want Shafane Rutherford. Jason Roy has gone. Am I missing someone else? They've got Gabars. Okay. What is his recent form like? And otherwise you've got... Raghavanshi and a change of the batting order would make more sense for me. But let's just have a look at Gabars of recent times. Made 100 against Ireland in an ODI not that long ago, and then a couple of failures in the last T20s. That's a really interesting one of how all that sort of goes. It's not ideal. It's not Phil Salt though, is it? And Phil Salt in this form is something else. And it's the combination of the two that I think is the bigger issue. Not that Gobars can't do it, but Salt puts so much pressure on you, and then you got a guy wildly swinging at the other end. I always thought that Narayan looked at his absolute best when Chris Lynn was also causing problems, right? Addy says, very niche, but I really appreciated your commentary of Ramandeep's catch. As a person who loves fielding, it's fun to listen to compared to the dross that's said on the official stream. Well, I wasn't listening to that, so I don't know what they said. I thought it was a fantastic catch, and I got it slightly wrong because I thought he dived, and actually what he did is he got there standing up. I thought it was really interesting because of he must have seen, you could see it actually on the replay. He sees Russell come in and he pauses and then he sprints. I just thought it was an exceptional catch. And let's be honest, the fielding hasn't been all that great so far. Michael says, is Salt or Butler the biggest loss in the finals when the England players leave? I think as the way the two teams are setting up, I would say that Salt is the bigger loss because if you go back, Michael, and we were looking at all the power play scores, have a look at how many times they have scored over 2 runs a ball. Butler has been fantastic, but less consistent. And also, Rajasthan is a bowling team, and KKR have been using that power play to win games. So I would say, even though you could argue that Jos Butler is the better player, and in the finals is much more reliable, Salt has been the more important person to the way that Kolkata has played this year. So I think that's an issue. But it's a fantastic question. Let me just, there's a couple more. Let's see if I can get any more that we want. No, we've already done the pinch hitter one, haven't we? I don't know why that was asked again. And then we got RCB, KKR. Varun said you need a keeper. I said Gabars, but there's always going to be a keeper. That's never going to be an issue. You can always find that. This is an interesting one, and let's finish off here. All right, last couple, and then we are done. So Fat Hill says, at this point, do you think RCB have a chance to qualify, or are we just being delusional? No, they have a chance. It's tiny, but they have a chance. They are playing like a team who has nothing to lose. The issue is when they have something to lose, if that makes sense. Like if they win the next 2 and they get to the last one, it could be an issue. But I said almost from the time they couldn't make it that they were an incredibly dangerous spoiler team because that allows them to play the way they should have always been playing. And they've followed that script perfectly, which is not ideal for them. Addy says, with RR all but confirmed, is there value trying someone other than Butler to open? So they've won 8. I'd have to go back to the points table. But they've won 8, haven't they? So they would need to be in a situation where they can guarantee the double chance. So they've won 8 from 10. So if they win the next one, which is against Delhi, they are 9-2, and they have all but guaranteed the second chance at that point, unless Sunrisers go on a mad run. So you could look at it then. But the last 2 games of the year, I think that makes sense. I think that's good thinking, Addy. Matt says, what do you think about Rinku opening with Salt leaves? I'd have to go into his record a little bit more. Another left-hander. Yeah, I'd have to go into his record and have a little bit more of a look, Matt. I think I still prefer the number 3 to go up the order, I think, if it was me. And then I'd then bring Shreyas, Iyer, or Venki up to number 3. I think that's a better way of covering it. I'd rather a number 3 opening than I would someone from down the order. But they might go that way because it does kind of follow their mantra, right? Rajasthan Royals have Tom Kohler-Cadmore. Would you replace Butler with him? Look, I'm not a big fan. I'm trying to remember what they did when they were injured. I think Kohler-Cadmore is a really good player. I don't know if I think he's an IPL finals winning level player. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I'd have to go deeper through their squad again and think back to what they did with the injury. Also, what you do with Jaiswal at that stage. Do you tell him to bat through the power play and you send up pinch hitters or someone like Kohler-Cadmore or whoever else you want from your middle order to go up the order and cause some chaos, and you say to Jaiswal, we want you to bat through, knowing that if he bats through, he's probably still going to have a strike rate of 145 and then could still go up to 160, 170. So there's a few different ways to look at it. Really interesting too, as I said before, because they're a bowling side, they have a little bit of flexibility with maybe going with a slightly more defensive opening batter, right? And playing it that way. Sanju Samson could obviously open as well, so they could change their order quite dramatically there. Anyway, that's it. Thank you. I think I got through almost everyone's questions today. Thank you very much for everyone for coming on board. We'll be back again on Wednesday. We've got the power list tomorrow. And what else have we got coming up? We've got a couple of good videos. We've got one on Suresh Raina. And I think we'll have one on Patharana, who could be a very important player towards the end of this season as well. But plenty more content. And we put a really interesting video up yesterday on the main channel, which was about how the different kinds of leagues and how scoring goes, and how this huge scoring IPL might play out in what could be a very low scoring World Cup, and how that will go. Anyway, thank you to everyone, and we'll see you again tomorrow for more live shows with me and Bayram, and then on Wednesday for the scoreboard. There is no point having talent around you if you don't use it correctly. Every captain knows this, and it is the same of the sport of cricket as when you are trying to win Raid Shadow Legends, which sounds like a new cricket league if we're being honest. The difference is that instead of taking down arrogant openers or massive power hitters, you are fighting the Demon Lord and the Hydra. So if you want to remember that cricket is a funny game. 100 years before we protected our heads, players looked after their groin. So don't be as stupid as old cricketers. Protect your computer. NordVPN is the protection I use when facing cyber short balls or when the rights issue tried to dismiss me. NordVPN will help you get through the straight bat of any GEO blocks so you can watch all the cricket you want. If you need your pitch changed, well, NordVPN can doctor any surface to a new location so your IP address is set up for you to win. Want to buy an associate cricket shirt from a place that won't ship to your country? Select NordVPN. Want to watch a game on a free stream in another hemisphere? Give NordVPN the ball. Or if you just want to watch a clip on social media that the cricket board won't allow, promote NordVPN to pinch it. So if you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 additional months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a cricketer protects their nether region with NordVPN today.